For my first long-form hardcore power scaling video, I'm doing a matchup that I've been debating with others for years now. You saw the title and thumbnail. Today we're talking about the Hulk versus Atrocitus. These are two of the most powerful manifestations of rage in all of media, but who would really win a fight to the death? Let's start by looking at the Hulk. I'm not gonna waste time explaining the Hulk's origins. At this point, everyone knows that Bruce Banner is the Hulk and that his powers originate from gamma radiation. What might not be common knowledge is that the Hulk is one of multiple personalities living inside of Banner, and that his base power fluctuates based on which version of him is in control of the body. Today we're mainly going to be talking about Classic Hulk, Green Scar Hulk, and Professor Hulk. We're also going to be going over the highest metas for both of our fighters. So I'll be bringing up Immortal Hulk and some of Classic Hulk's outlier metas when we get to the higher ends. There's the infamous feat of holding up a 150 billion ton mountain range. That's 330 trillion pounds. He was capable of holding two tectonic plates together. He literally had one gripped up in each hand. His son Scar channeled something called the Old Power to move 100 trillion tons of tectonic plates and then put all of that energy in one punch into Hulk's chest. But the Hulk took no damage and kept fighting. He even blew up an asteroid 2 times the size of the Earth. So he has planetary attack potency with ease. If you didn't already know, the ability to destroy a planet is child's play to the Hulk. He has some much higher strength feats that I'll get into later on, but where the Hulk really shines in my opinion is in his combat scaling. Hulk's physical strength is tied directly to his rage, but even though his rage has been repeatedly stated to be infinite, there's still some contention about whether or not his physical strength is also infinite. I'm of the opinion that yes, his strength is also infinite, or at least immeasurable, not only because of its ties to his boundless rage, but because of Hulk's scaling to Hercules. Marvel's Hercules has immeasurable strength. He's stated to have helped Atlas with his world burden in the past, and we actually see him holding up the sky on panel, with Atlas remarking that they made a deal for 3 hours of freedom from his burden. Although it's often referred to as the world burden, and many depictions of Atlas have him holding a planet on his back, this panel obviously shows Hercules and Atlas lifting the entire cosmos, and Atlas refers to it as the firmament, which is literally defined by Oxford as the heavens or sky, especially when regarded as a physical thing. It's worth noting that lifting strength and striking strength aren't the same thing, but think about it like this. Hercules' body can withstand the pressure of an immeasurable weight for 3 hours. His arms and legs were strong enough to hold the entire cosmos over his head for longer than the runtime of Interstellar. And the Hulk is pretty blatantly shown to be stronger than Hercules. For example, he was capable of tanking a blast that was later stated to be worth 133 of Hercules' strongest punches. We've gotten statements like this of the Hulk being stronger than Hercules and Thor. I'm gonna talk about Thor in a second, but I thought it best to bring up Hercules first to illustrate the Hulk's physical strength. This one time, Hercules, Namor, Wonder Man, Silver Centurion, Iron Man, Hawkeye, Captain America, and some other heroes tried jumping the Hulk, and he was not folding. So the Hulk most definitely has immeasurable strength. And this is the Incredible Hulk, Classic Hulk. Yes, he's pretty angry in this instance, so it's definitely not base calm Hulk, but anything this Hulk can do, this Hulk can definitely also do, and this Hulk can do in his sleep. Hulk is also physically stronger than Thor. They're shown fighting evenly on most occasions, but even Thor admits that nobody beats the Hulk when it comes to physical strength, including himself. Thor is consistently star level in terms of strength and durability. He's been shown to fly straight through stars and be entirely unaffected by the heat and gravitational forces. His local gravity was increased to that of a neutron star, and he just broke out of it. He was capable of flying unaffected by a black hole that was too strong for the Red Hulk's grip, and he's been consistently compared to Hercules, who, as I explained earlier, has immeasurable lifting strength. The Hulk is also stronger than Gladiator, having beaten him in single combat. Gladiator is someone who defeated Hyperion in single combat, even going so far as to snap his neck. He's someone who casually flies through stars and is stated by narration to be able to destroy them with his bare hands. There's also the matter of the Hulk's fights with Sentry. Sentry is stated repeatedly to to hold the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. And that doesn't mean that every single one of Sentry's punches is 1,000,000 supernovas, but remember that Green Scar Hulk fought Sentry to a stalemate. So to say the Hulk is any less than multi-solar system level can't be true based on this alone. Paul Jenkins, the creator of the Sentry, even stated that the Sentry could destroy an entire universe. But keeping with the 1,000,000 exploding suns thing, I'll say Green Scar Hulk is multi-solar system level in terms of attack potency and durability. The Hulk doesn't have the fastest movement speed, but if he's fighting someone faster than him, you better believe he's gonna lock in and start tagging them, to the point where he contends with people who fight and react much faster than light. For example, the Hulk is capable of trading blows and reacting to Gladiator, who in turn is capable of performing interstellar travel in a matter of minutes, and whose fight with Hyperion took place in a matter of nanoseconds. And Professor Hulk was capable of tagging the Silver Surfer in flight with a thrown rock. The Silver Surfer is someone who's capable of transwarping time and space via sheer speed and traveling across the universe via a black hole. And this one time, Silver Surfer charged up on the energy of a star and blasted off with enough speed and power to obliterate a moon and the surrounding planetoids. But not before the Hulk could adjust his course a little bit. I could have brought up the Silver Surfer in the attack potency section as well, because he and the Hulk box on a couple occasions, but the ability to throw a rock just as fast as an amped Silver Surfer can fly is so goofy that I felt like I had to focus on it. In my humble opinion, the Hulk's most impressive speed feats come from his ability to fight Thor. More specifically, his ability to react to and even catch Mjolnir in flight. Now, the reason that's so impressive is because Thor is repeatedly shown to move Mjolnir massively faster than the speed of light. Like the time he threw Mjolnir to the furthest edge of the Milky Way galaxy and it made it there and back in under 60 seconds. Or scans like this and this of Mjolnir moving fast enough to escape the pull of black holes. Thor can even spin the hammer so fast that it creates a whirlwind, but that whirlwind can carry 3 people into space faster than light. So Thor is pretty much spinning Mjolnir at immeasurable speeds here. And that isn't the only time he's done so. Here, he's literally using Mjolnir to spin so fast that he enters the 4th dimension and travels through time. Mjolnir's travel speed also scales to Thor's flight speed, because if you didn't already know, Thor uses Mjolnir to fly by throwing it and holding on. Technically, he doesn't even have to throw the hammer, because Mjolnir is enchanted with the ability to fly and travel through dimensions, so he could literally just point it in any given direction and have it transport him across unfathomable distances almost instantly. There are a couple things that people like to bring up to try and debunk the Hulk's reaction speed, like saying Mjolnir isn't always moving at the same immeasurable speeds, which is what allows the Hulk to react to it, or saying that this version of Thor is weaker than that version of Thor. But here are the issues with these arguments. First off, classic Thor is the main Thor we get until he becomes King Thor. Just because the quality of art increases over time doesn't necessarily mean that these are separate incarnations of Thor. There's a famous feat where Thor throws Mjolnir across all 9 realms in a matter of moments, but it can't be factored into the Hulk scale because it actually was performed by a different Thor. Rune King Thor, basically peak Odin's son. And it's true that the hammer doesn't always fly at full speed, which is my issue with people saying Ghost Rider is massively faster than light based on this feat, but it only makes sense that Thor would try throwing the hammer as hard as he could before getting done like this, or this. So to summarize, the Hulk is massively faster than light in terms of reaction speed based on his fights with Thor alone, but he also contends with other MFTL characters like Gladiator and the Silver Surfer. So the Hulk has a number of special abilities that supplement his supernatural strength and limitless rage, the most well known of which being his regenerative healing factor. It's rare that any opponent is able to actually hurt the Hulk, but when he does take injuries, like being impaled by a dozen spears or having most of his body mass peeled away by Vector, he regenerates almost instantly. When he was infected by the biological weapon of Sakaar called spikes, he literally just ripped a parasite from his own chest and kept fighting. The Hulk also has Hax resistance. Of course, he's immune to radiation and can absorb gamma energy, but he's also resistant to psychic attacks and mind control, like we see here and here and here. He's resistant to magic attacks. He has incorporeal interaction, which means he can touch you even if you go intangible. And as I stated before, the Hulk's stats and gamma energy output increase indefinitely as they're tied to his boundless rage. The Hulk doesn't have too much range when it comes to his special abilities. Most of them are purely defensive. You know, he's got a healing factor, enhanced durability, and a bunch of hacks resistances, but the two offensive abilities he does have, being boundless rage and supernatural strength, are more than effective enough to make the Hulk one of the most formidable threats in all of fiction. Real quick, we're gonna go over the Hulk's higher metas that we're not really gonna factor into the final verdict of this matchup, simply because if we factor in these feats, the Hulk just wins. We're talking about higher metas like Immortal Hulk, who is literally the manifestation of the One Below All's rage, the One Below All being the exact opposite of the One Above All, who is the supreme being of Marvel Comics. He's literally God. He's above the Living Tribunal, the Beyonder, Molecule Man, and any other nigh omnipotent being in the Marvel Universe. The One Below All is heavily implied to be equal or at least relative to the One Above All, and he essentially bound Bruce's soul to the below place, which is his realm, so that every time the Hulk dies in the physical world, he'll just be resurrected by walking through what's called the Green Door. This version of Hulk is stronger than almost every other version of Hulk that came before him, strong enough to one-punch KO Thor Odinson and overpower Hercules and Jane Foster Thor at the same time just by flexing his muscles. But in a few minutes, you'll see just why we're not taking these feats into account. We gotta give Atrocitus at least a fighting chance here. Atrocitus is the first Red Lantern and the leader of the Red Lantern Corps. I feel like if you clicked on this video, you at least have a rudimentary understanding of Atrocitus' backstory, but his entire sector was wiped out by robotic soldiers called the Manhunters, who were created and used by the Guardians of the Universe before the Green Lanterns came into existence. And as a result, his thirst for blood and vengeance eventually led him to create the first Red Lantern power battery, powered by rage energy, as opposed to the Green Lantern power batteries, which are fueled by willpower. Most of Atrocitus' scaling is to other ring-bearing entities like Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner, Saint Walker, Larfleeze, and Sinestro. There's also Indigo 1 and Star Sapphire, but they don't really matter in this matchup. But let's get right into it by talking about Atrocitus' attack potency and durability. Starting with his lower feats, he was actually capable of contending with rookie Hal Jordan and Green Lantern Sinestro without his power ring. He shattered their constructs with his bare hands and obviously reacted to their movements. These feats are unquantifiable because we don't actually know how strong Hal Jordan was at this point, but it's notable that Sinestro was one of the most skilled Green Lanterns of all time. He's fully capable of multitasking with his ring and even has the willpower to create constructs of functional Green Lantern rings. So for Atrocitus to even hang with him and Hal Jordan at the same time without a ring is pretty impressive. And before this fight, he was imprisoned by the Green Lantern Abin Sur, but Atrocitus manipulated him into feeling fear, which weakened his constructs and allowed him to break free. Now, with all that being said, give Atrocitus his ring and he becomes a multi-solar system level threat. I'd even go so far as to say that Atrocitus is one of the strongest singular lanterns of all time. Barring the White Lanterns, Larfleeze, Parallax, Hal Jordan, and Guy fucking Gardner, there isn't anyone in the mythos who can actually challenge him. To properly illustrate Atrocitus' attack potency, I gotta talk to y'all about Hal Jordan. Although Atrocitus was capable of shattering his constructs without his Red Lantern ring, he still ended up losing that 2v1, and it was Hal who delivered the final blow. This was also very early on in Hal Jordan's career as a Green Lantern. If I remember correctly, this was his first mission or one of them. A more experienced Hal Jordan has the willpower to create a harness around the entire planet that can also withstand the pressure of Superman towing the entire planet, create a construct around the moon and move the whole thing single-handedly, tank a blast that obliterated a moon and just get up and keep going, and tank being rammed all the way through a planet. He's also undamaged by the heat and gravity in the atmosphere of stars, and has fought Mongol on multiple occasions, even going so far as to crucify him with constructs and beat him bloody. Mongol is a being who's physically stronger than Wonder Woman and fights evenly with Superman, Superman being another character who can just fly through moons and survive inside stars, tank star level attacks, and even tank an explosion worth with 50 supernovas. So Hal Jordan's personal feats are around planet level casually, but with effort he's capable of doing things like surpassing Mongol and overriding the programming of his own lantern ring in order to kill Krona. And Krona is a guardian of the universe, one of those little blue-green people, and was capable of enslaving all of the emotional entities at once. Each one of these colorful monsters is a low-level universal threat in itself. A good way to describe them is by comparing them to tailed beast or legendary Pokemon who wield this absurd level of power but act more like forces of nature despite being sentient entities. But even though Krona could take full control of the living embodiment of willpower and 7 other Skyfather level entities at the same time, he still died to one overwhelming blast from Hal Jordan. Circling back to Atrocitus, he's fully capable of shattering Hal Jordan's constructs with strikes and through sheer strength. Hal Jordan, Star Sapphire, Indigo One, and Saint Walker had to work together to even try to hold Atrocitus back from killing Sinestro here. And here, Indigo One, Star Sapphire, and Saint Walker failed to hold Atrocitus back for more than a moment. You may be thinking to yourself that these are physical strength feats where Hal Jordan's higher metas come from his willpower, energy, and constructs, but every single thing a lantern can do with their power ring is directly tied to the emotional energy stored in the ring and power battery, or that they generate themselves in some cases. Even Saint Walker, who's one of the weaker Lantern Corps leaders, was capable of performing time manipulation on a star along with one other blue lantern and rewinding its personal timeline by 7 billion years. Even if we say he pulled 50% of the weight here, that's still 650,000 times planet level. If we assume this red sun is the same size as our sun, which it wouldn't be, it would be much bigger, but that's the easiest way to quantify it. Saint Brody Walker and Hal Jordan couldn't stop Atrocitus while working together and with even more help. Sinestro here didn't even try to defend himself. He's seen what Atrocitus can do firsthand without even having a ring. He did not want the smoke. Especially since right before they got Atrocitus in the shackles like this, he was putting the pause on Hal Jordan and Sinestro at the same time. Sinestro is another character who contends with Mongol. Although he did lose their most recent fight, he also briefly contends with Lobo and is unhurt after having one of his own constructs smashed into his face. Atrocitus was actually there for that fight as well, and Sinestro performed better against Lobo than he did, but at the same time, Atrocitus can just walk through Sinestro's constructs. So it doesn't matter if they're yellow, green, or blue, they just don't work on him. Atrocitus also beat up Green Lantern Kyle Rayner. You could argue that Kyle Rayner let this happen because the goal was to put him in tune with the red energy of rage, but when Atrocitus makes Kyle watch a man get shot in the neck right in front of his son, and Kyle becomes enraged, so enraged that his Green Lantern ring just becomes a red one and Kyle goes Red Lantern, he still couldn't break free. Atrocitus let him go and then slapped him again. Kyle Rayner does a lot of stuff, so I'm just gonna rapid fire some of his feats. He contends with Major Force, KOs Mongol off guard with one construct, overloads the central power battery of Oa, which is stated to have the power to consume the entire universe, and when the resulting explosion destroys the planet they're on, Kyle Rayner is pretty much unharmed. He took a punch from the Flash while under Starro mind control, so bloodlusted Flash, and at the peak of his power, he was capable of containing a supernova with his constructs, albeit with a little help. But if we treat Kyle Rayner like Saint Walker and say he pulled 50% of the weight here, that would still be solar system level, because a supernova explodes with just as much energy as the stars emitted throughout its entire timeline. So to summarize all of that information I just dumped all over the floor, Atrocitus is multi-solar system level in AP with ease. Less because of his own quantifiable feats, but because of the way he fodderizes star and solar system level characters like Hal Jordan, Sinestro, and Kyle Rayner. This section is going to be shorter than the Hulk speed section, simply because all of the Lantern Corps leaders scale to each other in terms of movement speed and reaction time. None of them consistently blitz the others, and they're all capable of intergalactic travel at much faster than light speeds. For example, every Green Lantern makes regular trips to Oa, which is the Green Lantern base planet and is located at the center of the universe, but more specifically, we've seen Kyle Rayner perform intergalactic flight, escape the pull of black holes, and tag Wonder Woman, who in turn performed this 52 quadrillion times light speed feat of blocking the pieces of the Shattered God. Saint Walker, the Blue Lantern Corps leader, is capable of the same interstellar travel as the other Lanterns, and has even been shown relative to Wally West, Barry Allen, and Bart Allen. We've seen Hal Jordan use his constructs to approach the Speed Force singularity, which basically means he was going going so fast he almost entered another dimension. He's even tagged Professor Zoom with his constructs, but still doesn't blitz Atrocitus, and neither does Kyle Rayner or Saint Walker. Even Martian Manhunter wasn't blitzing Atrocitus, even though he reacts in plank time. Think about it like this. There are 1 sextillion plank times in a minute, and Martian Manhunter is capable of forming thoughts and using his telepathy between those plank times, but wasn't capable of blitzing Atrocitus. That alone would be evidence for Atrocitus having much faster than light speed and reaction time. But it doesn't hurt that he also scales to Hal Jordan and Kyle Rayner, as well as being capable of performing the same intergalactic travel as any of the other Lanterns. So just like the Hulk, Atrocitus's attack potency is linked directly to his rage. The difference is Atrocitus's Red Lantern ring allows him to manipulate and absorb rage energy rather than just being empowered by it. He's also one of the only Red Lanterns to ever create rage constructs, which work in the exact same way as Green Lantern constructs, but of course, since Atrocitus is pissed as fuck all the time, he generally uses this ability to create melee weapons and better kill people, rather than creating shields and vehicles and things like that. The Red Lantern ring also replaces your blood with a napalm acid-like substance that can be vomited from the mouth and incinerates living beings on contact. The potency of a Red Lantern's napalm breath depends on their rage levels. So of course, as the leader of the Corps, Atrocitus can use it to melt space-time. He even says on panel, somehow hiding in a void between the fabric of space itself, in which case, I shall incinerate space. And he just blows a hole in reality to get to this other plane. The napalm breath was even capable of causing the Spectre visible pain, if only for a brief moment, which is a really shaky feat, I will admit, because the Spectre's power level fluctuates heavily, and sometimes God gives the Spectre limitations like preventing him from killing Atrocitus here. But I had to bring it up. What's much more solid is Atrocitus using the red blood of rage to momentarily convert the Spectre into a Red Lantern. Even though the Spectre almost immediately negates this, the fact that Atrocitus could affect him at all is pretty impressive. The Spectre is the personification of the wrath of the DC version of Christian God, and is capable of all types of multiversal shit. We have seen the Spectre physically harmed by people much weaker than him, but I chalk that up to the fact that the Spectre might be bound to a human host and that body can be damaged. But the ability to metaphysically infect the wrath of God, however briefly, is insane. Atrocitus is also technically capable of doing everything the Green Lanterns are capable of doing, time manipulation and things like environmental playback, but Atrocitus never does any of that on panel, so he either can't actually do it or doesn't care enough to try because his bare hands usually do the job. He also uses blood magic to see into the future and divine important locations, but that doesn't matter at all here. His future sight is more like prophecy than anything that qualifies as precognition. And that's pretty much it for Atrocitus' special abilities. His power set is very straightforward. Rage energy manipulation, lantern constructs, metaphysical corruption, and napalm breath are the main things he brings to any given fight. He's also immune to power negation in the form of the blue lantern energy of hope, which directly counters the red energy of rage by proximity, simply because he's so angry, so unfathomably vexed, that he achieved cosmic power. So earlier I brought up the emotional entities, in the way that each of them is a low-level universal threat in their own right. That's because each of them is powered by the presence of their corresponding emotion across the entire universe. The red one is called the Butcher. He's the emotional entity of rage, and he was born when the first blood was spilt. The Spectre even went so far as to say he fears the emotional entities and their primitive power, saying he's faced the Butcher in the past and warning Atrocitus that it would destroy him. We actually see a little bit of them fighting on panel, where the Spectre implies again that they fought before, saying he warned the Butcher that the Earth was his domain and to stay away. The point of me saying all this is that Atrocitus eventually becomes the avatar of the Butcher. He finds it, sticks his fingers into the God of Rage's forehead, and hangs on tight until it possesses his body. Unfortunately though, this form of Atrocitus has a whopping 0 feats, but if we look at the Butcher's other canon avatar, it took a normal human and made him strong enough to knock the Spectre's jaw off with 1 strike. And the Butcher should be comparable to Parallax and Ion, who consistently turn their avatars into Skyfather level threats. So this fight would be utterly cataclysmic for the galaxy at large. 2 multi-solar solar system level threats going head to head, both of whom are very resilient and have no problem with collateral damage. But who would actually come out on top? As much as I want to say Atrocitus wins, the Hulk definitely takes it. Their attack potency is generally relative, with both of them having multi-solar system level metas, but the Hulk's immeasurable speed and strength scaling give him the edge in physical stats. Atrocitus's rage empowerment would help him continue to scale as the Hulk's power level increased, but the Hulk's rage is limitless and would eventually surpass the peak of what we've seen Atrocitus do. It's worth noting that Atrocitus could hypothetically seal the Hulk within his power battery, and that makes sense because the Hulk is essentially another rage entity, so if Atrocitus can seal the Butcher, he can probably do so to the Hulk. But the Hulk has shown the ability to break dimensional and temporal barriers with sheer strength, and would without a doubt punch his way out of a Red Lantern power battery, even if it took some time. What about Butcher Atrocitus versus Immortal Hulk, you ask? Well, it's pretty much the same. Immortal Hulk is just that. He has Immortality Type 4 and will always come back as long as the One Below All wants it to be that way. And there's no argument for Butcher Atrocitus versus the One Below All. Alright. I hope you enjoyed this comic versus battle. This is partly a power scaling channel, you know. My bio says media commentary and power scaling, and that'll never change. But most of the videos on my channel right now would fall under power listing rather than power scaling. So I had to come out with this video and the last one just to show y'all what's up. Like this video, leave a comment about something I got wrong or forgot to mention, and y'all have a good one.